Welcome to the launch event of our Invest Minneapolis-St. Paul report. You're about to watch panel 2 on workforce development, a Midwest work ethic. Enjoy.
Thank you very much for introducing me. So I am Jen Swanson. I own a digital transformation advisory firm called TechPoint Advisory Group. And people call me when they realize that their organization and their workforce needs to be reimagined, upskilled, reorganized to be better able to compete in a digital experience economy. So it's my absolute joy to be able to convene this panel to talk about evolving the workforce in this region, because that is, it's the lifeblood of everything we're doing here. So I hate podiums. So I'm gonna actually come down and sit. Is that all right? Is that legal? Okay, good. Hang tight with me, people. I'm reorganizing. All right. So, you all have my okay. No? Yes? No? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So with that, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves with the first question, which is, the title of the panel, right, is about our Midwest work ethic. So my question is, how would you define the Midwest work ethic from your perspective? So we'll just run right down the line. Please introduce yourselves as you answer that question.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Sandy Cadu. I'm the president of Northland Community and Technical College, which is actually outside the metro area. I am in Northwest Minnesota. I always tell some of my colleagues it's almost Canada, because the area that I serve is actually bordering on Canada. So I have a campus in Thief River Falls, a campus in East Grand Forks, and a site in War Road, which is on the border of Canada. And so I'm finishing my second year as a president. I've had the opportunity to, I'm native to the Midwest. I'm originally from Wisconsin, please don't hold it against me. But I also got to live in Kentucky as well. And so, understanding what the Midwest work ethic is, I put a lot of thought into that in terms of, I've had conversations with my sister, who lives in Texas, what is it with the Midwest work ethic? And the thing that I think about the Midwest work ethic is that we in the Midwest work really hard. We do. But I think that doesn't necessarily mean that we're working harder than our counterparts in other parts of the world. But we also are continually trying to work smarter. We're trying to work harder at working smarter. And I think that's what sets the Midwest apart. In the area, the region that I serve, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who really, I call them the garage tinkers or the turkey farm tinkers, who really started their own businesses because they wanted to get smarter. One of the companies that we work with in our region is Central Boiler, and they've spun off into Altas, and they make lawnmowers, but they also make heating systems. And it was a tinkerer. It was a tinkerer who said, I want to start my own business. For lawnmowers, I want to have lawnmowers that are on tracks. I wanted to do something different. So that's when I think about the Midwest work ethic, I would sum it up as working harder at working smarter.
I love that. I absolutely love that. All right. Let's see. Pass the mic. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Maureen. Good morning. I'm Maureen Plus. I'm with St. Cloud Technical and Community College in St. Cloud, just an hour and a half west of here. It's a great question because we just had our commencement ceremony a couple of weeks ago, and Ayan Omar is the Director of Equity at District 742. Ayan graduated from St. Cloud Technical and Community College, and then she went on to St. Cloud State, got her bachelor's degree and her master's degree, went into education, and we invited her back to be the commencement speaker. And she really made me think because she shared with the graduating class of 2023 what she saw in them and working with our college, and we have a close partnership, was she saw that the graduating class of 2023 at St. Cloud Technical and Community College is innovative, tenacious, and kind. And as I thought about that, I thought, a great description of our class of 2023. They made it through the pandemic. They were tenacious. We see examples abound of their tenacity, how innovative they are, and how kind they are to each other. And we cultivate that culture of being kind to each other and giving each other grace. And I think what a great quality or qualities to bring to the workforce when they graduate and they go into the workforce, to be tenacious, to be innovative. And I think that does really embrace what Minnesota is all about. As Mayor Fry said earlier, kind. So being in a place where people can be innovative and they can be tenacious and kind and giving each other grace, I think are just qualities in Minnesota that move us forward, and I'm so proud to be a part of that.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jason Morris, and I'm the president of Cristo Rey. For the old, if there's some academics in the room, who's familiar with Cristo Rey? Just so I know, to set some context. Oh, a lot of you, that's great. So I framed this up so that we understand and I can answer the question around Cristo Rey. So we're a Jesuit high school in the Twin Cities here. We serve a population that is a little over 80% free and reduced lunch, 99% youth of color. And we provide a college prep and a career prep education. So the career prep piece, 1 day a week, our students are out in the workforce. So we are the workforce of today, not just tomorrow and the future. So they are working out in the Twin Cities every day here, providing meaningful work. I frame that up to answer the question. I would hone in around the areas, and for the academics in the room, around Angela Duckworth's work around grit and determination. So that's what really differentiates the Midwest workforce and what I see in our students. I'm finishing out my first year coming from also out east as president of Cristo Rey, and our students are really making a difference in transformational opportunities, and it's because of their grit and determination and the support of the Twin Cities community to that grit and determination. So our students, again, to the grit and determination piece, we have students, so we have a student going to Yale, we have 2 going to Notre Dame, so when you look at the statistics, we have 5 going to Carleton, we have our first ever Gates Scholar, we have a Posse Scholar, we have 2 Questbridge Scholars. I don't say all that other than to frame up, when you look at the statistics for the students we serve, and you can look that up on the Federal Reserve for the data junkies in the room, there's around the opportunity and achievement gaps in the state of Minnesota, right? They're significant. They're significant. But the power of potential and grit and determination is what differentiates the workforce and the students here in the Midwest. And I see that very clearly from being new to Minnesota and spending my career in education. So there is potential, there's power and potential, and there's power and opportunity, and you all are providing that opportunity. And I see it in our students, and I see it in the way that they work hard and they overcome any obstacle or barrier that's been placed. All we need is to provide an opportunity to close that opportunity gap.
That's excellent. So what's interesting to me about this panel is that you all are at the very source of the pipeline, right? When we talk about a talent pipeline in Minnesota, in our region, in the Midwest, Minnesota, our population growth has been essentially flat. Somebody provided me with some excellent statistics here that between 2021 and 2022, the state grew by 5,700 people. So for all intents and purposes, population growth is flat. So with that constraint in mind, how are you all thinking about how we tailor that workforce for that future need, right? For where the state is going, skating to where the puck is going, and to use a really good Minnesota metaphor with hockey, to make sure we've got a steady stream of talent for the state's business. So I'll let you fight over who goes first, but I'd like to hear from all of you.
So in Northwest Minnesota, we also have the same talent shortage, and I think when we're looking in our space in higher education, we call it the cliff, the enrollment cliff, because we can project out a population of high school graduates, which is traditionally in higher education. That's where we get our students, is traditional higher education, and we know in 2026. Around that time, we're going to tank. We're not going to have as many high school graduates, and that's a challenge for us. So I think there's 2 things that we have to do, and 2 things that our institution is doing. Is first, we are really trying to engage from our high school level for our students to be able to provide those opportunities to learn about what they can do. And what we're learning is that students really need to get more exposure to the different types of things that they can do. A lot of times students will only be what they can see, and so they can't be what they can't see. And so if we would, the more opportunities we provide for that, statistics, I like statistics too, so. I read a Lumina Foundation report that said last year 50% of high school students were considering, not considering higher education. They're considering going directly into the workforce. And so we really have to rethink what we do in terms of if more of our students that are a lesser piece of the pie are going directly into the workforce, how are we continuing to serve them? How do we continue to make sure that they are lifelong learners, because the things that they're learning right now might not be applicable in even just a few years. So we have to make sure that they know how to learn. So one of the things that we do is we are really rethinking how we deliver our curriculum, how we're getting more and more part-time students, what our programming looks like. We launched a program called Northland Works, where we're trying to partner our companies with students so that the companies will pay their tuition and oftentimes directly pay their tuition. So if you're one of the 50% that's going directly into the workforce, why don't you still continue your education? Because that's really important. But I think the other thing that we really have to do is re-engage all of the individuals who are maybe not reaching their highest potential and are returning adult students, and being able to continue to re-engage to ensure that they have higher education.
Well, and also then as economies shift within the state too, you're looking at people who do need reskilling or upskilling, right? And that ability to continue to perpetuate the talent pipeline, not just the new folks in that talent pipeline, but the folks that have been there for a while, to be able to bring them back in and prepare them for a second or third career, correct?
Correct, and what's transferable.
Yes, awesome.
And I would just add on to that, the incumbent workforce and retraining and upskilling some of their skills so that they either continue where they're at or if they're looking for movement. And it's really about collaboration. In St. Cloud, I really feel fortunate. We're in a community that we work together a lot. I work with Greater St. Cloud Economic Development Corporation, the chamber, with the business and industry partners to come up with creative ways so that we're not competing for the same people, but we're actually training people and upskilling their continuing education so they can be really valuable employees and leverage the skills that they have, because we know they want to work, they want to feel like they add value and they bring value to the workforce. So if we can collaborate and make sure that they can come in and out as they need to, and we make it flexible in how they can do that. That's been a key component. Some of the things that we're doing along that line, early childhood education, critical shortage in St. Cloud for daycare providers. And so the Initiative Foundation was able to get us a grant where we're doing a early elementary education cohort, 16 credits, stackable credentials, people online. So they're already working in the childcare field. They can take online courses. With 16 credits, they can get a certification, and then that leads to an increase in their pay. If they choose, they can come back. Those credits already count to a 2-year degree. They can get a 2-year early elementary education degree, and then we have an education transfer pathway where they seamlessly transfer on to St. Cloud State University, all online. So they can stop in and out as needed to be in the field, gain that experience, provide that service, and yet increase their credentials so that they can stay in the field and learn more. I think the other point is when I think of the achievement gaps, we have a population that makes me really worried because we're not serving them fast enough. The students that are here today, and there is an achievement gap. And so we're looking at what are we doing for equity and inclusion? What are we doing to make sure that all students feel valued and welcome? And that we're looking at how we deliver education or we're removing systemic barriers. And so we've put into place Equity by Design Teaching Academy, where faculty really look at their curriculum and say, where are there barriers for students that prevent them from achieving their full potential? We know that they're there, and we have to address that. When we look at our statistics about our graduating students, we have 99% job placement. And we know that our students of color are going into the workforce and they're being placed and they're as successful as our other students. But getting them over that finish line, and we have to meet students where they're at, not saying to our students, well, you have to do this. there are support services and wraparound services that we need to provide. So we're really looking at how do we do that and what do we need to provide and how to rethink what we're providing our students so that they do reach their full potential.
Thanks. Just to piggyback on certainly what Lori had said, but I mean, we're starting the process earlier, right? Back into the high school years. So we're starting to, how would we deal with that trend? You know, as we start earlier and having the opportunity for our students to see themselves in the workforce and to provide meaningful work into the workforce as early as their high school years. Certainly, I think, you know, there's a lot that's going on in the national narrative around, you know, value of a four-year degree and is that worth it? When we look at the statistics, again, relative to the population we serve, it's worth it. It's worth it. That's not to say there is not a place for technical school or all of those other opportunities, but when we look about closing the opportunity gaps that exist, not only educationally, but then as you move into socioeconomically, the four-year degree is very significant for the students. So what we also really hone in around is fit. I think that's getting lost in the national narrative is there's still an important piece to fit for college and university. And what does that fit look like, you know, relative to all institutions and providing those spaces where they can be really successful and provide life-sustaining work for not only themselves, but their families. So I think, again, just to answer that question is to come back earlier for us and look at a pool that may not have been considered as part of the workforce at a previous moment in time and how that workforce can really be successful and provide meaningful work going forward.
Jason, I just have a somewhat of a follow-up question. So I've had the pleasure of working with Cristo Rey students over the course of my career. But it was when I was back in the office. And so can you talk a little bit about what the shifting landscape, I mean, Eric Ray definitely talked about the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday crowd coming back downtown, but realistically, what has the shift, what has that meant for your organization? And what, you know, you've got some employers here, what pitch would you like to make?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the mayor and I talked about this before he even came into the room, and it's been a challenge. I mean, it's been a challenge. We're one of 38 schools across the country doing this work and in a similar model, and it's been the same challenge across the country. What we are really the most meaningful work, as you all know, sitting in this room, the most meaningful work, no different than all of us sitting here, is in person. This doesn't work virtually, right? But as the mayor said, and we're not unrealistic to think that it's going to be 5 days back in the office ever again. And we hear that from our corporate partners, some of them who are the chief human resource officers at the largest global companies in the world. But we have to figure out a way to balance both. Our students and the upcoming workforce deserve an opportunity to experience face-to-face. No different than you all deserve an opportunity to experience face-to-face and what that collaborative environment looks like. So that needs to be a piece. What we really need to do at Cristo Rey and what we're spending a lot of time researching right now is how do we, for a student population that has never had the opportunity to be face-to-face in the workforce, develop meaningful work from a hybrid environment. Well, we've talked to some of our corporate partners. I just met with one the other day. They haven't met their boss in 2 years in person.
Yeah.
Right? That's okay because both of them had the experience to be in person at another moment in time. It's not okay for the students that are rising. It's not okay for the future. I mean, I'll be right out there with that. We have to provide opportunities for that meaningful work and that experience back and forth. That we don't learn from, we could do a lot of research around that. We don't learn from each other. We don't learn from all of the values that we put into place relative to, diversity, equity, inclusion, or anything that comes from our differences and how we learn from those is really powerful and it has to happen in person. So it's a work in progress, I'll be honest with you. How do we create a significant, meaningful hybrid work environment for our students and for the employers, and conversely, how do they do the same?
I have to think that's true for your student populations as well. I mean, we are all sitting on a time bomb of students who are coming up through, I have children that are teenagers who have been significantly impacted by the idea of online education. Some ways for better and some ways for worse. And we all are going to see the manifestation of that in another 5, 10, 15 years. We're already seeing it, but it will just continue to sort of manifest as these students who were so, impacted at such a critical time start to come out into the workforce, what their expectations are, right?
I always say students' expectations are really changing.
Yeah.
And this gets to the geography of where I'm at. It's very geographically sparse. So our students have to travel a long way. So online is very convenient for them. But I always say, I cannot teach, one of our niche programs is aviation maintenance technician, and I hope that we never teach an AMT how to do anything online, nor a nursing student how to start an IV online. We can't do it. So, there has to be that, that balance of when can we do things online, but when do we bring things in person?
Absolutely. I've done it. Go ahead.
Well, I think there's an opportunity too for, when that's some of the things that we're exploring are high flex. Are there opportunities in some of these programs where you can be online, you can be in the classroom, or you can come in and out, depending on the day or what's happening or what's going on in your personal life, because we know students have personal lives, we know life intervenes, we know they're working, and so I think making it as flexible as possible where we can. That's not always possible, but we're trying to create more flexible space where students can come in and out. And we're also trying to balance that same thing about we need our students to be engaged. We need them to feel like they've had that college experience. That's really important, and we know our students do better when they do get to learn from each other and they get to engage with each other. And our goal is how do we do that and do it in a flexible way so we can serve both needs.
Yeah, so it's funny because where we started off with the talk about the work ethic, one of the words that kept popping in my mind as we were talking about it, but we didn't say the word, was collaborative, right? Like, I believe that's a big factor of the Minnesota work ethic, right? Is this idea of how might we together approach this problem and tackle this issue. And what we're talking about here is that where we sit in history is maybe causing us to think about what collaboration looks like in different ways. Done a terrible job at asking questions you thought you were going to answer, but we are going to bring it home here. And I want to actually pivot the lens just slightly because you've all been talking about the students, right, that are moving through your organizations. But as organizations, you are subject to the same talent pipeline issues that the rest of us are, right? You have employees, you have faculty, you have staff. And I'm curious to know how our own sort of, talent pipeline affects how you prioritize your work, your initiatives. How is that factoring into your leadership in your organizations? So we'll use that as our final question. And why don't we start at the end this time?
Sure. We are not immune, for sure. We spend a lot of time and have spent a lot of time over the last few years. I mean, we learned a lot of things in the pandemic, right? And if you weren't paying attention to the value of educators prior to the pandemic, it's very real now, right? Our teachers are really, really important. And it's important that they are given the opportunity to be creative and innovative because our students and they deserve those opportunities. So from a standpoint of they have worked significantly hard throughout the pandemic and have been challenged in ways that many others weren't challenged. We're 5 days a week, right? We don't get that luxury. We are 5 days a week. So when we talk about from a competitive standpoint, from talent acquisition and talent retention, we have people that look to us and say, well, we're looking for an HR director right now. How many days can I work from home? The rest of our building is in person, right? And it's not fair for our teachers to have space or other employees that aren't. So we have that piece, but then we also have, as everything has, the salary piece, right? And we've had to be very competitive in that realm. And then our teachers and faculty deserve that. So that's a good thing also coming from the pandemic. We spent a lot of time, I will be honest, taking to market all of our positions and spent a very significant amount of time. We're very fortunate that we have very good retention, but I would say it's only because of the environment. So there is a cultural environment too that we create in our school community that is really valuable. And what are those benefits and what are those other opportunities to work in that space, as well as salary. So I do say to a lot of our for-profit partners, we have a lot, obviously we have 132 corporate partners. They're also competitors for talent for us. I used to say, please don't take it. I mean, teachers have amazing talents, whether it be training or, think about anywhere you could plant them in your corporate environment. Please don't take them from us. But I started to think about that differently. You know, I started to think about, for us, we need to do better to make sure that they don't leave us, right? Even if they're presented that opportunity, that we're providing a good quality salary and environment.
And meaningful work.
And meaningful work, and it's hard. Yeah, it's really challenging. I didn't look like this before the pandemic. It was a lot less gray and a lot.
We're doing the same. It's how do you show the purpose and the value of what we do in higher education? Because it is so rewarding. I've been at St. Cloud Technical Community College for 24 years. Prior to that, I did a lot of bouncing around, and I'd get bored, and I never get bored. It is such a rewarding place to be in. It's creating that culture and that environment where it's inclusive and it feels welcoming and people want to be there. But we have people retiring. They've been there a long time, and there are people who are leaving us through attrition. So check out our website. We have some great jobs if anyone's interested. It's a great place to be. But rather than, we've done the competing thing with our community and trying to compete for those positions. And now we're being collaborative. Now it's saying, how do we be creative and innovative and try something different? So we meet with Centricare once a month with their HR office. And we talk about nursing. Well, trying to find nursing staff, faculty is really challenging. And so how do we share nursing people back and forth, because they're as interested in as we are in having quality nursing educators. It serves them well, it serves us well. And so we're trying to find creative ways to share talent and resources rather than competing with each other to do so.
And we're doing the exact same thing with our healthcare partners, because I often look at it as finding the purpose, but then if we don't have the educators, especially in some of the areas that we have the most challenge in recruiting, then we don't have that pipeline. So that's really important for us to have the nurse educators, for us to have, the AMT,
The teacher practitioners, right?
the teacher practitioners. It's really important for us to have that. And like everybody else, I have an advisory council, and I was talking to them about our turnover challenges, and we do it. Yeah, so look at my website. We have some great options too. We also are in the heart of sugar beet country, and walleye fishing. But we also have, it's really, it's about making sure that we show the purpose in that and can be competitive, because it's really hard when our competitors will say, yes, you can stay at home, and that's really attractive, and that got really attractive during the pandemic.
Excellent. Sandy, Lori, and Jason, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Over too fast. So, thank you.